Welcome to another Founder Wisdom Podcast Longevity Edition. We have xiong with us today. He's a PhD, and we're going to talk about longevity today, which is one of my favorite topic of all time. Jin helps doctors and individuals achieve better health outcome. Apparently, longevity doesn't need to cost $1 million a year, like our friend Brian Johnson is currently experimenting on his body. Jin is trying to extend longevity and improve performance via innovation of longevity biomarkers and nutraceuticals. We're going to talk about NAD and MN today, longevity biomarkers and supplements, and tricks and tips to extend your life without breaking bank here. This podcast is brought to you by podfire.com. That is my podcasting company. If you want to start, scale, be invited to podcast. If you want to monetize your podcast and really scale it for long term, hit me up on podfire.com or Charles Cormier on LinkedIn. Jin, welcome to the podcast. Tell me a bit more about yourself and about Jinfinity Precision Medicine.
Thank you. I have been an academic scientist for a little over 4 decades now, and I studied in and taught in multiple medical schools in multiple countries, including China, France, and the US, where I spent the vast majority of my career. And I had a research center that I founded over 20 years ago, and we had over 70 MD PhD scientists working under my direction, and we secured over $100 million of research grants from mostly the National Institute of Health. I published over 400 papers, and I'm widely cited by my peer scientists. But at the end of the day, I am more interested now in working with my friends, my clients, and my colleagues to extend health span. I'm more about health span than longevity, and it depends on how you define longevity. I am in the space of longevity, but I'm more in the space of health span, meaning how many healthy years that you can live. My goal is to extend the vast majority of people's health span by 1 to 3 decades. And as we were talking before this recording, I think we can achieve this goal easily with the current solutions we have and without breaking the bank.
How does one do that? Because Brian Johnson, he's making a good move for humanity. He's testing a bunch of things on his body, but how can you drastically improve your longevity without breaking bank?
Yeah, I mean, let's talk about Brian Johnson a little bit. I think people don't truly understand what he's doing. And the headlines in the media, are great. And I like the headlines, but they can be sometimes misleading. Brian, I am involved in working with Brian. Brian is spending most of the money on research, on finding, developing new protocols, figuring out what works, what doesn't work for him. And it does not take him $1 million or $2 million a year to do what he does once the protocols are developed. So how can we extend lifespan without spending a huge amount of money? And you may have to spend a little bit of money, okay? There's no free lunch. But here, there is actually some free lunch here. So even when you talk to Brian Johnson, the number one solution he is promoting is how to get better sleep. And better sleep is the number one thing that has helped Brian Johnson to achieve what he has achieved. So getting a good night of sleep every night, or at least on most nights, is very critical, at least for Brian Johnson. And I think it is true for the vast majority of people. May not be the number one thing for you or for me, but for Brian Johnson, getting a good night of sleep is the number one thing that he thinks that helps him. And that's true for many people. And the second one is movement and exercise. And we don't need to talk about it. It's very well understood by most people. And so that's well understood, well accepted. We need to be more mobile, especially when we are getting to the more advanced age. Not necessarily old age, but exercise is the key. And the third thing that I would emphasize is nutrition, that everyone emphasizes as well, not just me. Now, nutrition, you are going to find many different protocols, different recipes, and I'm not an expert on nutrition, but what I believe in is very balanced nutrition. If you don't know what to do, eat a variety of foods, and especially foods of color, it can be very helpful. Not only you have to pay attention to macronutrients like proteins, fats, and other macronutrients, but you have to pay attention to micronutrients in terms of vitamins. We can dive a little more into the details. And that's top three. We can continue on avoiding stress, avoiding toxins and environmental exposure that are harmful. I mean, all these things, they don't cost a whole lot. It may cost some money, but it does not cost a fortune. If you do these few things, you can dramatically improve your health and extend your health span.
What about fasting? That seems to be a big one.
Fasting is certainly beneficial. I would say if it's done correctly, and certain experts in the field promote non-fasting fasting. I'm not sure that's really the right thing to do, or at least you want to be extremely careful. And if you fast for way too long, and you may cause damage to your internal organs, and that can be harmful. And I don't know, frankly, what's the best fasting protocol, but certainly I'm a proponent of fasting, obviously, especially intermittent fasting will have a shorter period of food intake a day, or from 24-hour, maybe 36-hour fasting. Those are pretty safe to do. For longer ones, I think we need to monitor what's going on.
Right. And okay, so we have sleep in there. What does it cost one to get great sleep, lower caffeine and cortisol before going to bed, not eating before bed, blacked out shades? What would be biohacks to hack sleep and extend longevity?
What can you repeat the question?
Yeah, how does one get better sleep?
Well, so it's I think it's actually a very difficult question. I think it's person dependent, and what you have talked about certainly are important, but I'm not certain that's going to work for everyone. I mean, you want to listen to the advices, but you probably need to figure out what are the things that keep you awake. And I again, having active life and having a regular sleeping time are certainly very important. And there are certain supplements that can help people sleep as well. This number one thing that can help people sleep is probably a regular schedule. And if you go to bed at different times every day, that can be bad for your sleeping cycle.
Right. Then on the supplementation side and the macro diet side of things, what do you recommend folks to do to live longer, especially for entrepreneurs?
Right. For macronutrients, if you have to pinpoint to one thing, that's sugar, avoidance of sugar. All right. So, fat was the better nutrient for long time. It's a complicated question, but what's universally bad is carbohydrates. And I have a recent experience, and I, like many entrepreneurs, I was extremely busy for the past 12 to 24 months, and my triglyceride was, steadily increasing and at an alarm speed. And I decided I had to do something 2 months ago. And the first thing I decided to do was to switch to a ketogenic diet, very low carbohydrates. For a Chinese, not eating carbohydrates, not eating rice is almost impossible. But I was determined to change my diet. I have not eaten any rice for 2 months. My triglyceride reduced from almost 500 to now about a little over 100 within the normal range, just by cutting out the rice and avoiding other carbohydrates. My triglycerides dramatically improved. I lost about 10 pounds. I'm doing much better than 2 months ago overall. So avoiding carbohydrate by all means. That's the best thing that anyone can do.
What about supplementation? You're big on NAD plus. I've tried it before in various forms. This is that you don't feel the effect on your body immediately like you would in caffeine. So what is your recommendation when it comes to supplementing and to live a long and healthy health span?
All right. So supplements do work if you take it properly, and if you take it in terms of dosage and the types of supplements you take. So what I cannot just tell you what you would need without doing the proper test. All right. So my recommendation is you want to take a blood test to figure out what supplements or what micronutrients you really need or you need the most, and use the data to guide what your actions have to be, including the intake of supplements. Without testing data, there are a few supplements that I would definitely recommend, and some are very cheap and some are more expensive, but they are almost universally needed for everyone if you are not taking them already. So the first three that come to mind is the two very cheap ones, vitamin D, and it's very cheap, and you can get it from any stores. It should work, but most people are not taking enough. That's the problem. Most medical professionals are not recommending high enough dosage for vitamin D to make a difference. And vitamin B and vitamin C are both important. They are also very cheap. Again, people are not taking enough. And the third one that's more dear to my heart, and I think where we have a lot of data is NAD. Now, NAD is deficient in almost everyone after 30 years of age. You can see, the charts behind me. When our teenagers, NAD level is useful and high, but in around the 30 years of age, our NAD levels have dramatically reduced. So NAD is involved in the function of over 500 different enzymes, and almost everyone's deficient. We really need to get the NAD optimized, and you can get a great benefit, and you may feel a difference after taking one dose. We actually have many clients who reporting all kinds of benefits even after one dose. And you don't need your coffee to become more energetic. I can promise you, you don't have to take a coffee to have the energy you need to perform your work. Everyone should try it. And with our NAD supplement, if you don't get the benefits, it's actually free. So there's no risk. We totally guarantee an outcome. I can get 90% of our customers NAD optimized, and 80 to 90% of these 90% get clear-cut functional clinical benefits of various kinds.
Right, and heard you mention vitamin D. Basically, for that, can we get it through sun exposure? And what about cold exposure as well to stimulate human growth hormone and a bunch of cocktails of interesting chemical up there? Does that have to do with longevity?
Yeah, so let's say, vitamin D, the only two ways that you can get vitamin D is one through exposure to sun, but most people are not getting enough sun exposure. So 90% of people in the United States and in other countries are vitamin D deficient. And you just don't get enough. And also, most people require 5,000 to 10,000 international units of vitamin D. If you look at the recommendation by the mainstream medical professionals, is 1,000 units. That's not nearly enough for vitamin D to give you the benefits that vitamin D can give you. So if you talk to functional medicine doctors, most of them do recommend 5,000 to 10,000 units, and we can test vitamin D levels. We have lots of data from tens of thousands of people. We know most people need 5,000 to 10,000 international units to get vitamin D optimized. If you get it optimized, you get a lot of benefits, and I don't know whether it extends longevity per se or maximum longevity, but certainly there's no doubt it can extend health span. And plunging to a iced water, iced bath, and even heat therapy like saunas, and they certainly promote the secretion of hormones and other proteins that do benefit health. And wasn't the extend the maximum longevity, I don't know, but the health benefits are certainly near, and they are useful. I don't like to take a bath in the iced water, but I like heat therapies.
Last but not least, physical activity. What do you recommend in that level for longevity?
So there are many different types of exercises, and they are all, most of them are beneficial. I think what one person wants to do depends on where they are and their physical form and whether they have certain issues. But one thing that I'm a data scientist. Let's talk about data. One interesting fact is, if you are engaged in racket sports, tennis, and badminton, if you play tennis players have on average 8.2 years longer life expectancy than non-tennis players. So I'm a tennis player, so I love it. Badminton can extend life expectancy by about 6 years. Okay, so get involved in sports activities that you like. I mean, anything can help, but if possible, if you are interested, hey, play some tennis, badminton, and now pickleball. I mean, pickleball is becoming very popular and is certainly very suitable for more aged people and very young children. My children and my wife got me involved in pickleball recently, and tennis players don't like pickleball. I don't like pickleball, but it can be extremely good sport for a lot of people. Get active, get involved, play whatever you want to play.
There you go. Jin, where can people find out more about you and what you do?
Well, people can find me on our website, jinfinity.com. That's JINFINITI.com. Or they can just Google my name, and I'm on various podcasts and on or you can search PubMed if you are a scientist. You will find my name quite a few times.
There you go. And I'm Charles Cormier. That was another CEO Wisdom Podcast.com.